www.journeymosaicinc.com. Toll free 888-906-5519. Journey with no excuses.
Hi, this is Kim.
And I'm James.
Inviting you to join us on our all-new reality radio show, Kick Your Assets into Shape.
Every Friday at 10 a.m. beginning June 29th.
Join us on the show that gets your money straight and your business growing.
So don't forget to tune into our show, Kick Your Assets into Shape.
Exclusively on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes.com.
And like us on Facebook at Kick Your Assets into Shape.
Or watch us on Ustream TV.
This is LA Talk Live, reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure and more than just talk. We are your hosts, Kim
and James,
of the all-new reality radio show, Kick Your Assets into Shape.
Which boot you gonna use, babe? The steel toe or the pointy one?
No boots on this show.
Oh, man, dang.
Hey, are you spending your time or are you wasting your time? Well, kill some time hanging out with Michael Collier, Brooks Jackson, and the whole crew at the Michael Collier Morning Show. I Get Up Late. That's every Tuesday, 3 until 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you don't know what that is, you better get on the internet and look it up. And while you're there, go to latalklive.com and check me out.
Hey, this is Richard Carr, General Manager for LA Talk Live and host of the New Entrepreneurs Weekly Summit. I wanted to take a moment out to welcome one of my newest sponsors, and that is Sensational Soaps. Sensational Soaps are handmade with all natural ingredients, with absolutely no preservatives, no harsh chemicals, and of course, no animal testing. Your body will look and feel silky, smooth, moisturized, and completely revived. Do you suffer from dry, ashy skin? Then layer your skin with their luxurious blend of oils and shea butters specially formulated to revive dry, dull skin. Sensational Soaps also offers a full line of bath and body products, including luxurious bath salts and body scrubs, massage oils and lip balms, even romantic gift sets and custom gift baskets for your lover or significant other. For more information or to place an order, visit them at www.scentsationalsoaps.biz. That's www.scentsationalsoaps.biz. Sensational Soaps. Pamper yourself and indulge your senses. Sensationalsoaps.biz. Proud sponsors of LA Talk Live and the New Entrepreneurs Weekly Summit.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. And our guest is Rodger Parent, who is the educator for HealthAid America. HealthAid America has been around for a long time. They seem to specialize in adaptogenic herbs. Rodger Parent, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to have you on. I know your products have been around for a very long time. I believe they're European in origin, aren't they?
Right. The headquarters is in London.
In Europe. And so for those listeners who know the term adaptogen but not quite sure what it means, what does it mean?
Well, actually, the whole concept and term of adaptogen was originated by the Soviets back in the Cold War era. And the idea of an adaptogen is some kind of compound that can help normalize your body under stress and increase its resistance to stress.
Mm-hmm. I see. So say it's a concept about past 40 years.
Yeah, 40, 50 years. They did heavy research for about 40 years. We owe most of what we understand to the Soviets.
And so stimulants, right?
Right. There's no stimulants in a true adaptogen.
And so adaptogens help you adapt to physical and environmental stress?
Physical, mental, emotional, chemical stresses, yes.
So in other words, if you are a business person working 12 hours a day, these would be good for you.
Right, right. You know, it's interesting that the Soviets did studies on coal miners, on athletes, on their military, on their auto workers, and they even sent it to space with their cosmonauts. So they have lots and lots of hard, solid evidence that it does help with stress.
I think we said Tang with our astronauts, didn't we?
We did.
Oh, that's before your time. It's an old joke about Tang. Remember Tang from years ago?
Right, I joke that same joke, yes.
Yeah, thank you. I like that joke. So how do I use your ginseng products, for example?
Well, first off, when the Soviets started looking at adaptogens, prior to that, they were looking at pharmaceutical agents like stimulants and steroids and antibiotics.
Right.
But they were getting side effects. So they started looking at other compounds that hopefully didn't have the side effects. And being close to China, they knew about ginseng. So they started studying ginseng. But one of the main problems with ginseng is that it takes a long time to grow, and it's kind of temperamental because you need just the right environment for it. So they started looking at other compounds, other herbs that had similar qualities, and they came across Eulithro, what we used to call Siberian ginseng, but it's not a true ginseng. And it's very hardy. It grows like a weed all over Siberia, Russia, parts of China. So there's a lot of it. And they realized that they were trying to expand, right? They were not shrinking. They were growing their territory. So they thought, well, we need a lot of these particular types of herbs. So they put a lot of study into Eulithro and found that it was actually a better adaptogen than ginseng.
And so what is the botanical name for the herb we're speaking of now?
Eulithrococcus senicosus.
And that used to be commonly called Siberian ginseng,
right.
But we kind of dropped that term now?
Well, it's actually illegal to call it Siberian ginseng.
Oh.
There was a time when we called maca Peruvian ginseng and other herbs. There was an herb called suma that we called Brazilian ginseng. So I think before Americans kind of got savvy to the idea of adaptogen, they just kind of put everything in the term ginseng. If it helped you with energy and endurance and stress.
Well, make it kind of easy to remember.
Right.
And so this Eulithro, how do I use yours? And what do I get if I take it? I mean, do I just feel better in an hour? Does it take a day? How long? What does it take?
Right. So first off, maybe for your listeners, let's just tell the criteria for an adaptogen.
Okay.
First off, no side effects, which I think is very important because if you think about most of the things that people use for stress, they're going to give you a side effect. Whether they're stimulants or sedatives or whatever they are, eventually they're going to cause a problem if you use them long term too much. So that makes these herbs probably the safest category and class of herbs in the world. Because you can use them heavy dose for years on end without side effects.
Well, that's important to know, isn't it? That's actually very important. So these are not drugs.
Habit forming. You don't build a tolerance. The second criteria is that they work in a very broad way in the body. They're non-specific, whereas most herbs and substances that people use either are going to stimulate or sedate, maybe moisten a tissue or dry it out, or heat or cool down the body in some way. Adaptogens actually work to balance your stress response so that they normalize this and bring it back to balance. So in a sense, it can do all of those things: heat, cool, moisten, dry, stimulate, sedate, depending on what the body needs. If a person is tired, they can give them a lift up to norm. They don't push it above norm like a stimulant might. And if a person is wired or anxious and maybe they have insomnia, it'll help calm them down. But it won't make them feel fatigued or groggy or fuzzy.
Now, for the listeners of Here's to Your Health, hearing your statement just now, which I know to be accurate, they might say, but how can this medicinal herb do all those different things? What is your answer to that?
Well, science, I don't think it's conclusive yet, but science, their best theory, the main theory is that it normalizes your stress response, your fight or flight mechanism in the body, which is really a feedback between the hypothalamus in the brain and the adrenals. And when you're stressed, you basically kick out two major stress hormones, either adrenaline or cortisol. You know, adrenaline is short term, lasts maybe 20 minutes in your system or less. And cortisol lasts up to 12 hours. So what we have going on in our situation these days with all this high kind of chronic nonstop stress from, I mean, think about it. Today we have heavy metals, electromagnetic fields, microwaves from cell phones, let alone not enough sleep, driving in traffic, rush hour, back and forth, poor food, you know, all of these things.
And those are the good parts.
Right.
Bada bing. Thank you very much.
So we produce, and most doctors will tell you, we produce a lot more cortisol than we used to 100 years ago. And there's a couple major problems with that. Cortisol causes your blood vessels to constrict, so over time you get high blood pressure. It also causes you to start to release sugars from your liver that were stored, said simply, so that we end up with, over time, diabetes, possibly. Also, it shuts down your digestion. Because you think about it, cortisol is for endurance. Times of battle, maybe you're running out of food source or water and you have to keep going. So it's really convenient to shut you down your digestion in a battle because there's no time to eat. But we end up with things like constipation and ulcers. Also, it suppresses your immune response. And that's one reason that people can't recover from serious bacterial or viral issues, and we're more prone to cancer. So I think one of the main things about adaptogens is that they help us with all of the things that people walk into a health food store, and most all the things that people go to a doctor for are stress related. Then you can be tied a lot back to cortisol.
And so the products that you offer, that HealthAid America offers, they're non-specific remedies. They're not medications. They are plants, right? They're plant-based. And so they are non-specific remedies. They do many different things because it's a different model of healing than drugs, right? Like a drug does X, and we need that sometimes. But your products do many things. So they're really foods.
So drugs treat a condition.
Right.
Adaptogens reinforce normalization. So it's kind of the exact opposite.
They do what again?
Reinforce normalization. So they're preventative. They keep you from going out of balance if you use them regularly. Now, and that is, I would say, if there is a weakness to adaptogens, it is that if you don't use them regularly, they don't really work.
I see.
You have to use them. And the Russians found that using them every day, you get the best results. Athletes had about 2 to 3 times more physical endurance, and they recovered from stress twice as fast. People didn't get sick. They didn't get depressed. But that only comes if you use them, let's say, at least 2 months straight, and then, continuously after that. You may not actually see results in a lab test for, months, but you probably will feel subjectively better much quicker than that.
So it becomes part of your lifestyle. For example, here's, I think, a fair example. If every night you sleep 8 hours, and the next day you can do a good day's work, but if tonight you sleep 3 hours, tomorrow you get through the day, but you're not at your best. So taking an adaptogen is like sleeping 8 hours every night. Might not seem very exciting, but it's kind of required, so to speak.
You don't know when you're going to have those events of, like you're not getting enough sleep. Maybe you get an accident. Maybe you get exposed to somebody who's sick. You don't know when you're going to come across these things. So it's putting money in the bank, rather than drawing it out when you're not getting enough sleep and you're living on coffee because of that.
Well, that seems like a very, very fair comparison. And when did you first become aware of these products?
Oh, I fell in love with adaptogens about 10 years ago. I got into Ayurveda. And Ayurveda doesn't really have the concept of an adaptogen, but they have a concept called rasayana, which is similar. It helps keep you younger and have more vitality.
What's the term?
Rasayana.
I see.
It's similar to the Chinese tonic herbs. And a lot of adaptogens are either originated in India or China. Most of what we know in the West come from those areas.
Right.
Like Schizandra, Neolithro, Rhodiola, Cordyceps, of course ginseng.
Yes.
So.
And is this the product, the Siberian, the one that you really are most widely known for, your company?
Right. So Cybergen was named before it's improper to call it Siberian ginseng, and that's the name of the product is Cybergen, even though the ingredient is Eulithro. And there's an equivalent to 2.5 grams of the raw material in one pill. And it's an extract, it's a hot water and an alcohol extract that's been dried and combined to lecithin, so it has really quick absorption. And the delivery mechanism is really one of the main things that make it unique, besides that we source it from the very best Eulithro in Siberia. It's wildcrafted.
And I would just use, 1 a day with breakfast or something?
Most of the studies that the Russians did were 2 to 5 grams a day, so you could do 1 or 2, one at least.
Oh, but you kind of recommend at least 2 then?
Well, I recommend at least 1, but let's say the more stress you have, the more you can use. There are athletes that will use 6 or more a day, because when you're under heavy training, it's like abuse to the body, and your immune system can crash. So this can help prevent that.
And on this, let me just get one of these here.
Sure.
If I was to try one, the Siberian, and I take, say, one breakfast, one dinner, does it keep me up at night?
It should not. If somebody has a lot of fatigue, there's a couple things that may happen. One is if you have a lot of fatigue and a lot of stress, but you got to keep going, when you start to use it, your body may just want to go into a parasympathetic state and go to sleep because it needs sleep. The other thing is that it's not used to having this kind of a reserve feeling, so it might keep you awake. So it's better to take it in the early part of the day until you know how your body's going to respond. But there is no stimulant in it. So once your body kind of gets normalized and balanced, I can take it before bed and it helps me sleep.
And because you have been working with this for a long time, and I'm sure that all the clients are different who use the product, is there anything that, in general, that you see as an educator? I mean, is there anything that people will say within a week they report back, oh my God, that kicked in? Is it a day? I mean, is there anything, any general stories you get?
I would say that most people actually feel it the day that they take it. Which,
really?
Which, when you
That's
look
very
at the
nice.
studies, that's not so much the case. Usually, like I said, it's a couple months. So I do think that the delivery mechanism makes a difference. And I'd say the most common thing is that people say that they have a lot more energy. And that's one of the things that we market it for. And unfortunately, adaptogens have been marketed with a lot of caffeine type of products. So people think that they are stimulants, and they really aren't. They really are balancing.
So caffeine from coffee is not an adaptogenic herb. It's a stimulant.
Definitely.
Right. And this does not have the same action as coffee. This is a medicinal healing herb that gives me more energy.
Because it reinforces and kind of calms down your stress response. So when you're stressed, you're making all these stress hormones. Eventually, you've heard of adrenal fatigue. People have heard of adrenal fatigue.
Right.
What they're talking about is their adrenals no longer can produce the stress hormones that they need to keep up this fast-paced lifestyle. So when you take adaptogens, it actually helps to produce more of these hormones when you need them and turn off the adrenals faster when you don't need these stress hormones. So you're not keeping to make them unnecessarily. And I want to make the point, I'm not a big believer in telling people you have to change your lifestyle, because that's a stressor, right, to a lot of people, right? But if you use adaptogens along with whatever you're doing, whether it's not getting enough sleep, or maybe you smoke a lot or drink a lot or eat a lot of junk food, it'll actually help your body to handle those stressors that you're putting into it because of stress. So it actually helps your body to produce more detoxifying enzymes. It helps your body to produce more ATP, your cellular energy. It acts as an antioxidant. So whatever the situation is, whatever kind of stress you're intentionally putting yourself under or were just inadvertently exposed to, it'll help.
Well, that seems important. For those of you just tuning in to Here's to Your Health today, here on the LA Talk Live radio network, we're speaking with Rodger Parent, the educator for HealthAid America, who is speaking to us about his Siberian, which is a Eleutherococcus product, been around for a long time, European. Where can I buy your product, by the way?
Well, here in LA, it's in Whole Foods, and it's in most of the independent stores.
Right.
So around the nation, I would say at least independent stores. Some areas have Whole Foods and other chains as well.
Well, when you're in Whole Foods, I mean, that's really kind of the good housekeeping seal of approval, because obviously it's very tough to get into Whole Foods, and everybody wants to be in Whole Foods, and Whole Foods is very selective about who they bring in. So that's really a plus. And what do these sell for, can I ask?
That is anywhere from $25 to $33, depending on
this particular dosage.
Right, depending on what area. And it's a kind of an interesting looking container. They decided to do something different than a bottle about 25 years ago, and they never have moved away from that package. But it does have 30 pills in there, and so it's about $1 a pill, give or take. And
theoretically, for the average person, 2 a day seems good, seems workable.
1 or 2 a day. I think 1 a day is fine if you're under more stress, or maybe you're elderly or you're an athlete. Take more if you can.
And have you worked with any athletes that you could mention names, or they prefer not to be known?
Off the top of my head, I don't have any. I know that we have had some that have used our product and that we've sponsored in the past.
Because sometimes when the athletes competing with other athletes who are equally skilled don't want to give away their little secrets that give them that little extra edge so they can beat the other guy. And does this taste like anything when I eat it? Does it taste like anything?
Oh, that's a great question. There's an interesting idea in Ayurveda and Chinese medicine that the taste of something kind of tells you what it's going to do. It indicates its action. And when you taste an adaptogen, it generally has a very complex taste. So it has salty, sweet, bitter, and sour. And in fact, Schisandra, another common adaptogen, is often called five-flavor fruit because of that. Oh. But when you think about most other herbs, they're strong in one particular taste, and that means that they're going to have a strength in one area. They're going to act in one way strongly. But adaptogens are modulatory, and that's indicated by their complexity of taste.
Well, that's a very nice answer. And is there a term for that? The taste thing. If something is bitter, it does something. If it's sweet, it does another thing. Is it?
Oh, I don't have one off the top of my head, a particular term for that. Sorry.
Huh. Okay. And what else besides Siberian Eleuthero do you have from HealthAid America?
Well, I brought this product, and it's a white Korean ginseng extract.
Okay.
And so most people are familiar with ginseng. Red ginseng seems to be a lot more popular in America. A couple decades ago, the Korean government started to put a lot of kind of marketing money behind red ginseng. But it turns out that red ginseng, the way you make it is you take white ginseng, which is unprocessed ginseng, and you steam it under high pressure or something to that effect. And you lose a lot of compounds, but you cause some compounds to convert into compounds that were not there originally, and it makes it much more stimulating. Okay, so red ginseng is more stimulating, and that is usually what people react to if they have like a heart condition that might raise their blood pressure or something. Sometimes that happens with ginseng, and it's usually a red ginseng. The white ginseng, not so much. And traditionally, you never heard about those conditions. And I think a lot of it is just the quality of ginseng that people may be getting their hands on that caused that problem.
I see. So red ginseng is simply Korean ginseng that has been processed.
Under heat and usually pressure, and it causes some of the saponins to become more sympathetically stimulating.
So theoretically, it would be less desirable.
I think so. It's less balancing, so I think it's less desirable. The people that would use the red ginseng maybe are athletes, primarily athletes. I would think would be the best ones for it. Whereas white ginseng, if a woman's kind of having maybe a PMS issue or hot flash or menopausal issues, it can help with that. Also athletic performance and mental focus, so like students. Actually, both the Cybergen and the Coragen are good for all of those things as well. And I don't think that the Soviets' edge on us in the cold era was due to them taking steroids alone. I think a lot of it was the adaptogenic herbs and their training. They were by far much more progressive in their exploration of natural ways to get that edge athletically.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's your take on it?
Oh, yeah. When you look at their training methods, things that we're just starting to use in the last couple of years here in America, they've been doing for 30 years.
Huh?
And we got it from them. So not only the training methods, but the nutritional protocols as well. And
this Korean ginseng, is this like a 500 milligram?
It's 500 milligram, and it's also a 5-to-1 extract.
And so this is certainly a one a day.
Mm-hmm.
Does this have any nice taste?
It's very bitter. The Korean ginseng is quite bitter. The Cybergen is almost a butterscotch caramel chocolate taste, some people say. But you can definitely taste all the different sweet, salty, sour, bitter if you pay attention.
So if I was to make tea from a Korean ginseng and a Siberian, used to be called Siberian ginseng, they have obviously different tastes. It's like eating peaches or plums. It's not the same.
Definitely different tastes.
Alrighty. And what about the Adrenomax?
So this product here is it's a formula of many different adaptogens. So it has rhodiola, ashwagandha, astragalus, gynostemma, or also called jaugalon, Eleuthero as well, Schisandra.
Can I have those once again? The formulation.
Well,
because not all my listeners are herbalists the way you are. Okay.
Sure. So ashwagandha, which is a adaptogen from India, which means the smell of a horse. It's not a very flattering term in English, but
really, smell of a horse.
Because it has a lot to do with virility. If you think about that culture. Okay. But it actually was also called Indian ginseng for a long time, and it's not a ginseng. It's not in the same family. And its Latin name is Withania somnifera, somni meaning sleep. So it's actually one that can help people sleep quite a bit. But it also give you energy and help with athletic performance as well. Then we have astragalus, which is pretty well known for immune function and kidney health and bone marrow.
Astragalus.
Yeah. Then we have the elithro, which we've talked about. Rhodiola, which is another Siberian root extract.
Rhodiola.
It's good for immune support, endurance, metabolism. And Schizandra, which Schizandra is one of those that's probably good for just about everything.
Schizandra.
Yeah, it's a berry. It's a very tart berry. Very little hard tart berry, but it's really good for brain function and oxygenation, liver protection, adrenal support.
Is Schizandra widely used in the United States?
I think it's in LA it is.
Oh, that's good. We're kind of a little progressive here. I'd like to. Yay for us. That's good. Okay, good. Schizandra. And what do I use that for again? How do I use that?
Well, I think all of these that I've mentioned. Now, the interesting thing, and I'm not going to answer your question directly, but indirectly, the interesting thing about all of these adaptogens is they're helpful for any kind of stress. So it's kind of a personal preference which one you like or you're drawn to, but they all have the kind of that overlapping umbrella of balancing. So you don't really need to necessarily take them all. The trick is regularly using them, something in that category.
And this, your Adrenal Max from HealthAid America, anyone, say, over the age of 12 can use it? It's for adults. So 12 and over, you count as an adult?
Right. Yeah, and the great thing about this product right here is it's an alcohol-free extract. It was actually made, it takes about 3 months to make, and it's put through 3 different processes, and no alcohol is ever used in the processing, no harsh solvents, only glycerin and water. We do use heat in a couple of the steps. But it's a spray, and so you can take 1 spray, you can take 10 sprays. It's easy to dose depending on how stressed you are or how often you want to use it.
All righty. Adrenal Max. And this also is available in natural food stores around the United States.
Right. This one is not in Whole Foods at this point. It's just, at least in LA. It is up north, actually. But it's in independent stores. And
I just spray this, say in the morning, is that it?
You can do it throughout the day if you want. That's the great thing about the spray is it's very convenient. And when you look at the studies about how long the effect lasts and how long the compounds stay in your system, they're pretty high levels for about 4 to 5 hours. So if you're under lots and lots of stress, I would take it a couple times a day just to keep it plateaued.
We're speaking with Rodger Parent, the educator for HealthAid America. Rodger, how can we contact you directly?
Well, I think you should contact the company. If you get online, you can look up HealthAidAmerica.com.
That's HealthAidAmerica.com.
Right. And if you have some questions, they can pass them on to me.
Okay, very good, very good. For those of you who have just been tuning in, you're listening to Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. We've been speaking with the HealthAid America educator, Rodger Parent, and we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Oh, your skin looks great.
Thank you.
What's your secret?
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence.
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence?
Yes, it's a beauty secret used since the time of the Greeks and Romans. The spa in Malibu told me about frankincense and myrrh by Ancient Essence, and now my skin is lovely.
Well, your skin looks great.
Call Ancient Essence at 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Call 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret. Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Available at fine spas and beauty centers.
Walk, run, climb, play. Solgar number 7 can help. Feel the difference for yourself. Solgar number 7 actually shows improvement in joint comfort within 7 days. Now you can start to get back on track, fast, and pursue the activities you love. Solgar number 7 is a breakthrough in joint care with no glucosamine and no chondroitin. The advanced bioactives in Solgar number 7 help to increase flexibility, mobility, range of motion, and actually shows improvement within just 7 days. One capsule, once a day, is all you need. When stiff joints occasionally say no, Solgar number 7 says yes. Visit Solgar.com and learn more about Solgar number 7 today. That's www.solgar.com, www.solgar.com. Solgar number 7, official sponsors of Here's to Your Health with Josh Lane and LA Talk Live.
Hands can do incredible things. They made every sound in this piece of music. But nothing compares to using them to help save a life. If an adult suddenly collapses, call 911, then push hard and fast in the center of their chest until help arrives. It's called hands-only CPR, and it's recommended by the American Heart Association. Visit handsonlycpr.org today. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane, and our guest is Steve Taneman, the educator for Biok, an important probiotic company manufactured in their own facility in Canada, possibly the premier company in the United States, a science-based company. Steve, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Well, thank you very much, Josh, for having me.
Thank you. Now, I'm happy to have you here. Now, Biok is sold everywhere. Everybody likes Biok. But what's the value? Why are people using Biok probiotics?
Well, you got to go back to that probiotics has actually been one of the largest growth area in supplements over the last 15 years.
It has, yes.
If you took a survey of awareness of American public of probiotics, let's say about 8 years ago, maybe 40% of the public knew what a probiotic was. It still is as a bacteria. If you do that survey today, you're going to find out about 90% of the American public knows now what a bacteria is.
No, that's a nice breakthrough.
With probiotic, yeah. With the good and the bad with this, it's like a two-sided coin. There's been hundreds of millions of dollars by major manufacturers like Procter & Gamble promoting it. That's good. I mean, that means that it's raised awareness. The downside is it's become, for most of the market, unfortunately, probiotic has become a marketing term rather than a therapeutic term.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where the education needs about how do you pick an efficacious probiotic? What does probiotics really do? What do they do not do? What is really going to confer a health benefit to you? And that's where we spend a lot of our time and our resources educating the public, educating the medical community, educating the retailers about what are the differences of probiotic and what you and the consumer what you should look for when choosing an effective probiotic, because we do believe that probiotic is a foundational supplement. If you walk into a Whole Foods or Sprouts, they'll tell you one of the 4 foundational supplements you need to take is a probiotic before you start anything else.
And what will Biok do for me?
Well, if you think of it, your body has about 100 trillion bacteria cells, give or take 1 or 2.
The body has 100 trillion bacteria cells.
Right.
I did not know that.
Okay. And only 10% of them are pure human cells. The rest are hybrid. And 70% of that resides in your GI tract. Now, what's your GI tract? That obviously is your mouth all the way down through your intestines, your colon, and out. And in your GI tract, there is our two major two major systems: your digestive, which is how we bring in our food and turn our food into energy, and our immune system. The majority of your immune system is in your gut, so to speak. And so that whole community of bacteria, which the ecosystem is actually called a flora, is different types of bacteria live in your body. You have 3 different major types. You have a neutral bacteria, which neither bad nor neither good, doesn't do anything, but it's in your body. And then you have pathogenic, which is bad bacteria, which is what makes you sick, and it could be anything from a cold to worse, right? And then you have good bacteria, which is known as probiotic. Pro meaning for and biotic meaning life, so it's good for life. So it's the opposite of antibiotic, which means anti-life, which you use to kill cells. Yes. So there's a constant battle being waged in your body at all times between the balance of good bacteria, bad bacteria. And what is, the mechanism, just have to go through this to understand why you need a probiotic.
Yes.
Is the mechanism that happens, the function in your body is when you get a cold or you're getting sick, the real mechanism that is colonization. When you get enough pathogenic cells growing and overwhelming the rest of the cells in the body, that's when you start to feel sick. That's what that energy, that's what you feel. That's what causes sniffles, everything else to worse. The same is also if you're feeling good. When you have more good bacteria than bad, then all of a sudden you're absorbing better. You know that saying, you are what you eat?
Yes.
It's completely false.
Aha.
You are what you absorb.
Yes.
If you think about it, because, when you put it in your mouth, your digestive system starts. So you start absorbing.
Right.
And what happens is the bacteria creates the enzyme that starts to break it down, delivering it to the various vital organs in our body that creates the energy you feel. When you're not getting enough absorption, that's when you start to feel sluggish. That's when you start to feel sick, or bad bacteria starts to overwhelm. And a lot of people say, well, so why do we need all this good bacteria? Doesn't our body take it in and colonize naturally for thousands of years?
Well, that seems like a good question.
The answer is yes, it does naturally. But however, what has changed in the last 100 years is the way we eat. 100 years ago, for better or for worse, our food was less sterile. We lived on farms. We took in bacteria naturally and in much larger quantities. Well, now we live in, for better or for worse, a more sterile world to keep us safe, supposedly, right? Problem is, you're not taking in enough good bacteria. Drugs will reduce bacteria. Antibiotics will kill all bacteria.
Well, isn't antibiotic overuse a principal reason why there are a variety of problems?
I think that one of the theories put forth is that we are having a record number of intestinal diseases such as C. diff. We have C. diff out there and MRSA. Those are the result of the Orwellian predictions. I don't know if you remember this, but back in the 70s, and I'm old enough to remember that. So the 70s, on 60 Minutes, there would be exposés about the overuse of antibiotics. So this is going back about almost 30 years. And they even said back then, the use of antibiotics is going to have a bad effect in about 25 to 30 years of creating superbugs that are antibiotic resistant so we've been 30 years. So what do we have today? We have C. difficile, Listeria, which is in hospitals, which according to the Center for Disease Control kills up to 30,000 patients in hospital years. This is not a disease you go into the hospital with. This is a disease you get while you're in the hospital, and it's antibiotic resistant. And there's MRSA, which also is antibiotic resistant. In fact, Biok, and I'll just move forward, the reason we've been around since 1995 out of Quebec and been in the United States for the last 10 years, what really launched our company, there was a C. diff attack, epidemic breakout in Quebec in 2004, and your listeners can Google this. 2004, there was a C. diff attack. It killed about 200 in 1 month, which is, in a city of 2 million, is an epidemic. It killed 1,800 in a year. Biok Plus has been credited as one of the major factors of reversing the C. diff. That's when we started, and that's when we started doing our clinical studies on the product. And we don't just do clinical studies. Our studies are actually award-winning studies that are actually published in mainstream American, Canadian medical journals. That is why we're not only in the in health food stores like Whole Foods and Sprouts and now in pharmacies, we're also in hospitals. So we are very much science-first company, marketing second. So anyways, the conferred benefit of a Biok, and why you take it every day, is that if you can make sure you have beneficial bacteria, probiotic, then if you're taking it every day, first of all, the World Health Organization estimates that the average American is deficient 10 billion cells a day, meaning that we have a deficiency of 10 billion bacteria, good bacteria cells that we're
Who says that?
The World Health Organization.
Really?
And so they recommend you supplement 10 billion a day, foundational. So if you're going to
for we Americans,
for us Americans, yeah. So if you take in if you're taking in that minimum of 10 billion a day, what are you doing? First of all, you're increasing your absorption. So all of a sudden, your energy levels will be better if you're increasing your absorption. Your digestive system works a lot more efficiently and effectively because of absorbing. So that's your digestive. Your immune system sits in your gut. Now, your immune system is supported by probiotic in that the remnants or the probiotics produce an enzyme, even after they die, that are used to create killer T cells, which are there for various diseases and things like that. So that is the benefit of your immune system. When you take an antibiotic, the effect is, yes, you can. I'm not saying don't take an antibiotic because it can save your life.
Right.
But by taking an antibiotic, you got to be aware of what happens. Antibiotics don't discriminate. They kill everything, including probiotics. If you have a colonoscopy, I'm over 50. I've had a colonoscopy. You're wiping out good bacteria. If you're doing cleanses, you're wiping out good bacteria. You need to replenish it. You need to replenish the flora, because what happens is when you don't have it, and then all of a sudden you're compromising your immune system. So so all of a sudden your immune system is not getting enough of the enzymes from the probiotic, and all of a sudden you start to get you can get candida or yeast. That effect candida or yeast. It can and that can release a toxin. The toxin creates the infection. The infection causes your doctor to give you another antibiotic. You start taking another antibiotic on that cycle. After every cycle, there's a certain number of bugs, bad bugs, that learn to adapt. The strongest ones learn to adapt. That's why an antibiotic over time will become non-useful.
Right. Because
they're very smart little critters, bacteria. So they learn to adapt and survive. So that's why we say a good efficacious probiotic is vital and critical, because even if you're eating the healthiest diet and you're taking the best supplements out there, and there's a lot of good stuff out there, you will only do better because you're making sure you're being efficient and optimizing your digestive system, thus supporting your immune system. So always start with a good probiotic.
So if a healthy person, starts using Biok, what do they see? And what's the time frame?
Well, it's a
broad question.
It's going to vary for every human being is different. In fact, you can actually they can map your bacteria flora. You know what type of flora, the type of bacteria you have.
Oh, really?
And that it's like a fingerprint. No two people are the same. It's really interesting. They can actually identify you like a fingerprint just based on your flora.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the basic thing is that what we find is that if you're healthy, you'll maintain to be healthier. Your immune system will be up, and your digestion will be clear. You might start to feel a bit more energy. Who knows? You might feel like you're digesting and handling foods a lot better. In a very healthy person, you should be doing it as young as a year old. I believe you should be on probiotics.
So on these probiotics, theoretically, shortly you have less problems with gas, you have better bowel movements. Is that it?
You should be able. It should help with the digestive system. Absolutely, it should help alleviate the gas. It should help alleviate any acidic buildup you're getting. All of those stuff are helped by a probiotic. And if you have some more serious issues, and such, it can help alleviate those symptoms. If you really are having severe intestinal issues, it should help alleviate the system. But doing it naturally rather than with drugs or with over-the-counter drugs, because this is where how I position it. If you think about it, if you go into a pharmacy, there are 3 types of things you can take. Mm-hmm. You can take a pharmaceutical,
yes,
a prescription. Take a prescription. Thing about a prescription is, yes, there is a lot of science behind it, showing that there's a benefit, correct? There's a lot of science behind it, but there's also a lot of side effect. Every pharmaceutical commercial you ever see says, oh, by the way, this could kill you. This could cause a lot of issues.
Yeah, some of the side effects just seem as though it was a Monty Python routine. It seems laughable. Enormous number of side effects.
Right, enormous number of side effects. So there's risk.
Yeah.
And there's always a counter reaction to everything you do. If you take this too long, it can hurt your kidneys. It can help your liver. So all those things. The other side is natural products and supplements. And we're not. And you know what? A lot of natural products are great, but the problem is there's not a lot of science behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a mixture of very good stuff, and you get a mixture of stuff that
not so good.
Not so good.
Right.
And there's no science because the FDA doesn't regulate it. So you got that to choose from. And then you have what Biok probiotic is, which it's purely a natural. It's a purely natural product. You can't overdose on it. There's never been in our clinical studies any overdose. Whatever your body doesn't want, it eliminates. It has some proven effects and benefits from our science.
Excuse me. So Biok, you manufacture it in your own facility in Montreal,
and it's a what they call CGMP facility, which means at regular standards. There's third-party testing along the entire manufacturing process, testing for its purity, its quality, and it contains what we say it has, even the cell counts. So it all that. So Biok bridges that gap between the natural and the pharmaceutical with a natural product that has clinical studies behind it that prove that works, and that puts us in a very unique category in the marketplace.
Well, the clinical studies actually are very important on your particular products.
Yeah.
So if people go out and know the value of probiotics,
mm-hmm.
and they buy Biok, what strains of bacteria are they getting that have been shown scientifically to be successful?
Well, that's an area. It's a really good question because that's part of the problem. Is for most companies, and I'm going to put the number at 99% out there. If they do cite studies, they A, don't cite their own studies, and B, they cite about a bacteria, but not the strain. They talk about Lactobacillus acidophilus. Well, if I say Lactobacillus acidophilus and I was an alien, it would be like saying, what do you recommend I drive around? You say car. Okay, which one? So there's 400 different Lactobacillus acidophilus.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm.
By the way, some of them are pathogenic. Some of them are neutral, and some of them are good. So it's like so the whole idea with strains is what a lot of manufacturers do is in the marketing term is they like to load up with a lot of multiple strains. Because they'll argue, well, your body, the more strains, broad spectrum, the more we can help your body. Well, here's the problem. There are 1,100 strains out there.
Mm-hmm.
The average human has 400. So what's the difference between 1 and 14 strains in a bottle? It doesn't make a difference. It is all about the strain, though. And here's the other reason why you don't want multiple strains. Microbiology 101, strains are very competitive. They kill each other. So unless they have been proven clinically and in testing that they're synergistic and they help each other, you can claim on a bottle, I've got 14 strains and 400 billion CFU, which is colonizing forming units. So 14, that doesn't mean that that's what's going to survive in your body.
Uh-huh.
So what you want to do when you're picking a probiotic, you want to make sure it's been clinically tested. So we have Lactobacillus acidophilus, but our strains are proprietary, and we actually, Biok was the very first company to patent a bacteria cell. Our strains are 2 strains. We have a Lactobacillus acidophilus that was discovered by Dr. Lequette, who's the co-founder of Biok. He was a microbiologist at the Pasteur Institute in Paris in 1979. He was doing research and he was looking at humans It was the first one not to look at animals or plants. What was the commonality of a group of humans that were always healthy, never got sick? And he discovered this Lactobacillus acidophilus. He called it CL1285. And he found a synergistic strain, which was a KCI, which we also patented. And they worked together. And
what are those two strains again?
Lactobacillus acidophilus.
Yes.
And we call it CL1285, which you cannot find in any other probiotic. We own the patent to that. And the other one is a Lactobacillus casei, which is we call LBC-ADR. Will be a test on this later.
Okay.
But the two strains, so those two strains were found to be synergistic, and they were found to be able to survive the bile and the acid of the entire GI tract. It's a hostile environment, and settle into the small intestines. But people say, well, don't you have to get into the large intestines, the colon? Well, in clinical testing, they were found the amounts of that would actually migrate down into the colon. So a lot of people will say, well, don't you need to take as a supplement like Bocaricum, which is in your large intestines in the colon? And the answer is no, because your body has that naturally producing, and that Lactobacillus acidophilus naturally stimulates the growth of Bocaricum.
Oh, I see.
So, but it's a lot of education for people
Sure.
to expect. So we basically say there are 5 things that a person should look for in a probiotic,
Yes.
whether it's ours or anybody else's. Is one, you got to look at the quality of the strains. Have they been tested in the finished product, not just the bacteria, but in the product you're buying? When you do it just in the bacteria, that's called borrowed science. And it's like saying,
Borrowed
I tested
science.
the space shuttle. I did test the engines, but everything else was fine. Okay. We know the engine works someplace else. So is the strains, are those strains, do they confer a health benefit? The other one, can the two strains work together? They won't kill each other. They actually help each other. So are they helping them colonizing? Is there bioactivity going on? Because colonization, remember I said earlier, is
Yes.
about what confers a health benefit. And that's part of the definition by the World Health Organization, is there's got to be colonizing. Yogurt is not a true probiotic. It's good for you, that's healthy, but it won't be therapeutic. An average cup of yogurt, according to Dannon, their own studies, is maybe 240,000 cells. A full bottle of Biok is 50 billion cells.
I see.
And they're the right strains, though. It's all about the strains. So it's got to do that. Also, does the manufacturer guarantee at the expiration date a minimum number of cells? So, for instance, we guarantee when this box expires, the Biok, that bottle, it'll be at 50 billion. So what you're drinking is probably a lot more right now, because they're slowly dying. That's what bacteria do. They're living organisms. So a lot of the boxes you can see normally will not give a guarantee, or if they do, they'll say guaranteed at manufacturing, which means what? How long ago was it manufactured? We want to know at the expiration date. So you want to make sure about that. The other is there, if you're doing a capsule, we do have a capsule because we use it in the hospitals also. Is there a substrate or coating on the product that will protect it, intercoat it? It's an expensive process. More and more manufacturers are starting to do that, but for a long time they weren't. So make sure there's a coating on it that allows it to survive throughout the GI tract, so it doesn't just get destroyed by the bile and the acid. And is
that called enteric-coating?
Enteric-coating, correct. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excuse me. For those of you just tuning in to Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, we're speaking with Steve Taneman, who is the educator for Biok Probiotics, and they are out of Montreal, Canada. And if you've been listening to this broadcast, this is a very interesting broadcast. So, Steve, I'm sorry.
No problem. And the final one is the fifth point. So you have quality of strains, synergy of bacteria. You have the bioactivity that's guaranteed on the box, protective environment. The fifth one, and this to me is the one that stands out, the difference with us, is published clinical studies on the finished product, not on the bacteria, not on somebody's theory, but basically taking the finished product and running clinical studies, and studies that are recognized as with quality and are actually good enough to be published in mainstream American and Canadian journals in our case. And so
excuse me. So your product Biok has been the beneficiary of scientific studies supporting the claims of your specific product, not borrowed science on Lactobacillus acidophilus, but on Biok products.
Right, on our strains, on our product. Right. So someone cannot take our study, another company, and say, oh, look, it says that Lactobacillus acidophilus works. Well, no, that's not what we're saying. We're saying Lactobacillus acidophilus CL1285 works. So
that does seem important.
It is very important, and that's that's part of the education of this product and being on shows like yourself that are very important because there is a lot of confusion. I do commit. The reason we are in health food stores and pharmacies, there's a real reason we're not in supermarkets. And it has to do with education.
Yes.
If you go into a Whole Foods or a Sprouts, and I'll give them a plug, or Mother's Market,
sure,
they're all good.
They're all very good.
Or if you go into a pharmacy even, what do they have in common? They have aisle support. You can ask somebody in the aisle, and they're trained to help answer your question, or at least lead you.
Yes.
You go into a supermarket, it's not a criticism, just not who they are.
Just an observation.
They are not. They don't do aisle support. You're on your own, and it's a price buy, right? It's just a cost buy, get in, get out. Pharmacies, you can ask a pharmacist. We have started a program in pharmacies called Antibiotic Stewardship Program, which, without even putting our name on it, with information brochures and pharmacy, just says ask your pharmacist why you need a probiotic, because it's more important to us that at least they ask about a probiotic and why it's so critically important if they're on an antibiotic and to their health and their well-being, that we're okay if they even buy other probiotics. We want them to make sure they're doing a probiotic because it is a dire consequence if you're not replacing your flora, you're setting yourself up for future health issues down the road if you're not replenishing the flora.
So when people use Biok, it's more than just bowel health. In other words, it's more than the fact that they have less gas and they move their bowels better, which is certainly important. But you're saying it boosts the immune system.
Well, let me correct that. It's not about bowel health. It's about digestive health.
Health.
Bowel is maybe one function, but digestive is about absorption and getting energy and the immune system. But it really is foundational to everyday health. It is, no matter what your regimen, no matter what your diet, whether you're vegan or whether you're on a low-carb meat diet, whatever your choice of what out there, you've got to optimize that absorption. And we are all very deficient in the optimization of our absorption because of our modern lifestyle and the way we eat. And it's hard to get around it, even if you have the perfect diet. Our food is, by regulation and law, is over-sterilized. So you can't get around that much. So that's why you need to take these supplements to help your body do what it does naturally with bacteria. Look, you can get into a long theoretical argument. People say, yeah, but we live longer today, so we're healthier. I said, no, they're two different things. Living longer and being healthier are two different things. We live longer because we have medicines and procedures that can revert or keep us alive or revert a life-threatening situation. But that doesn't mean we're healthier. It just means we know how to deal with more problems. I can argue that we actually have more digestive issues and more intestinal issues today than we did 100 years ago.
And other researchers I've read argue that less women and children die in childbirth. There's less infant mortality, and that seems to have extended the lifespan, but really it hasn't been expanded that much. A lot of people really feel that cleanliness, the washing of clothing, the fact that we could buy inexpensive cotton clothing has been a major factor in longevity, which catches some people by surprise.
But it catches longevity, but what's the quality? Meaning if we're living longer, but we're having more diseases that we have to deal with. We have more diabetes. We have more Crohn's disease. We have more celiac disease proportionally to the population. So we're getting things because in our effect to live longer, we're also there's a reverse effect of what do you call a consequence of our actions.
Yes.
If you look at one of the what's the analogy? One of the things one of the controversy I'm talking about. Childbirth and probiotic. One of the things that theories that are being put out there is that children born through C-section versus traditional vaginal birth have a much higher rate of allergies, even autism. And
I've actually read some of those studies. It's interesting.
And one of the theories being purported by it is that when you do natural birth through a birth canal, you're burned into a sterile environment in a hospital. 99% of us are. That means the bacteria, when you go there, they pick the child, the infant gets that bacteria, kickstarts the immune system. When we go through a C-section, it doesn't get kickstart. Yes. And we're in a start, and thus the immune system has a problem later on, and there's allergies develop and all that stuff. So there's a cause and effect. On theory, you're going, yeah, it's good that there's a sterile environment, and that's what's intuitive, and that's the right thing to do. But we also have to realize that even the best well-intentions, can cause a dire effect.
Sure.
And so that's really what we have to be aware of.
Well, Steve Taneman of Biok. Probiotics available in Whole Foods, Lassen's, Lazy Acres, you name it. Everybody carries it. Great product. Thank you for being a guest today on Here's to Your Health.
Thank you.
My name is Josh Lane. I'm the host. We're on the LA Talk Live radio network, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Walk, run, climb, play. Solgar number 7 can help. Feel the difference for yourself. Solgar number 7 actually shows improvement in joint comfort within 7 days. Now you can start to get back on track fast and pursue the activities you love. Solgar number 7 is a breakthrough in joint care with no glucosamine and no chondroitin. The advanced bioactives in Solgar number 7 help to increase flexibility, mobility, range of motion, and actually shows improvement within just 7 days. 1 capsule once a day is all you need. When stiff joints occasionally say no, Solgar number 7 says yes. Visit Solgar.com and learn more about Solgar number 7 today. That's www.solgar.com, www.solgar.com. Solgar number 7, official sponsors of Here's to Your Health with Josh Lane and LA Talk Live. Hey ladies, don't you dread the holiday shopping season?
Hi, this is Susie Pruden. And yes, you've seen me on Oprah, Good Morning America, and The Today Show. And I'm inviting you to join me every Monday from 3 to 4 for my new show, Mastermind Live. Join us as we introduce you to the new thought leaders of the world who will inspire you, support you, and guide you to your next level. So don't forget to tune into Mastermind Live exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is James Kinney from Kinney Group Creative, inviting you to join us every Thursday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for our all-new show, What Catches Fire. We're going to be discussing the love, life, and politics of the American brand. So don't forget to tune in to latalklive.com every Thursday from 2 to 3 p.m. exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Journey Sisters is an organization that embodies and captivates women from all walks of life. Our membership includes 44 women that are constantly growing in the areas of personal development and community involvement. Monthly, we offer free leadership classes at McKay's Restaurant. Journey aims to inform women in the areas of heart disease and HIV and AIDS. Experience the journey now by logging into www.journeymosaicinc.com. Toll free 888-906-5519. Journey with no excuses.
Hands can do incredible things. This is the sound of 326 hands playing Mozart. Hands can do incredible things. This is the sound of 10,942 hands showing appreciation. 64 hands building a house for the homeless. 142 hands swimming a triathlon. 18 hands winning the big game. And this is the sound of two hands helping to save a life. It's called hands-only CPR, and it's recommended by the American Heart Association. If an adult suddenly collapses, call 911, then push hard and fast in the center of their chest until help arrives. It's incredibly easy and effective. Hands can do incredible things, but nothing compares to using them to help save a life. Find out more about this latest method of CPR at handsonlycpr.org. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Meet Betsy. She is 29 years old and lives in Los Angeles. Recently, Betsy sent her father an email that brought tears of joy to his eyes. You see, Betsy suffers from autism, and this was the first email she had ever sent to anyone. Betsy is just one of the many students at Empower Tech, a nonprofit organization in Los Angeles that trains persons living with a broad range of physical, cognitive, and developmental disabilities how to use computers to do the things that so many of us take for granted: email, online banking, research, and entertainment. Through modern assistive technology, instructors at Empower Tech help hundreds of people just like Betsy every year. They teach them the basic skills required to function independently in 21st century society. But with new state budget cuts, all of that could change. Empower Tech needs your help if it's going to continue making a difference here in our community. Please visit www.empowertech.org. That's www.empowertech.org to make a secure, tax-deductible contribution and to learn more about this important community resource and to see for yourself what some of the amazing students and teachers do on a daily basis. Betsy and the 1.8 million people living with disabilities in Los Angeles County, thank you for caring enough to show your support.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane, and our guest is Steve Downs, the National Educator for Superior Source. Superior Source is here in Los Angeles, and they do a lot of sublingual products that are very well absorbed. Steve Downs, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thanks very much, Josh.
Happy to have you here. You here. Steve's been a guest on our show before, and he brought some photographs of Serge Leone, who passed away a few weeks ago, unfortunately, in Chicago. And, of course, picture of Arnold, young Arnold at his peak, I guess. And Serge also at his peak. You were buddies with those guys?
Well, I'd met them when they first came to Los Angeles.
When they were very young men.
Yeah, Sergio came out in the fall of 1969. Joe Weider had brought him out, and at the time, John Balick, who is now the publisher and editor of Iron Man magazine, and I were doing a little stint with a fellow in New York for a magazine called Muscle Training Illustrated. And Sergio knew that, but as I say, when Weider brought Sergio out, I tagged along on a Saturday for a photo shoot that was done by Weider and his photographer, Artie Zeller. And they were doing a variety of exercise shots, and I was taking it all in and had my trusty 35 millimeter Canon Pellex with me. And when Artie broke to reload his camera, I motioned to Sergio to come under the skylight. And this was all done at the Old Gold's Gym on Main Street, and had a nice skylight there. And so I knocked off about 3 shots.
This is your shot of him?
Yes.
That's a fantastic shot of him.
Thank you.
I mean, this is truly a fantastic shot. First of all, he's at his prime, and it's a lovely composed shot. I mean, That's really a good shot.
Yeah, Sergio Oliva was really
Yeah.
something special when
Right.
when you saw him and when you spoke with him, and so as I say, I took about 3 shots, and Weeder looked over and he said, "Artie, take a picture over there," and Artie says, "Nah, the light's no good over there."
Oh, well, he was wrong on that one, boy.
It was really so. A
Oh,
week
my
later,
goodness.
there's a story with this. A week later,
Yeah.
there was a contest. I believe it was a Mr. International down at the Embassy Auditorium.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at the time. I had this was in, as I say, the fall of '68. I was out of school and doing a stint at the Still Lab at Paramount Pictures. Don Haggerty, remember Grizzly Adams?
Yes.
His that's his. Don was Dan's father.
Oh, I see.
And he got me a gig with the Film Technicians Union. So I was there at Paramount in the Still Lab, and there was a terrific fellow there that did prints. So I had him do a 16 by 20, which you see, and I had it done sepia toned in a brownish tone, and took it down to the Embassy Auditorium. And John Balick got a look at it, and he was just blown away. And when Artie came down the aisle, he says, "Artie, take a look at this." And Artie, who is, an exceptional photographer, but sometimes not very complimentary to other work and so forth, took a look at it, and he says, "This is one of the best photographs I've ever seen."
It is. It's truly, it's a fantastic shot of a fantastic athlete at the height of his powers.
Yeah, he was really something. Well, he did get a little more size after that, but if you look closely at it, it's amazing because
This was taken in January '69 or fall of '68.
It was fall of '68. Yeah, fall of '68.
So he had already won what, Mr. Olympia?
He'd won, not yet. No. This was before a lot of that.
When did Arnold beat him, in '70?
I'm not certain. I'm not certain exactly when it was.
Because I think he won in '68, he won in '69, and then Arnold beat him in '70, and it was controversial. People thought, no, Arnold really wasn't,
Right.
But whatever.
Right.
But, I wasn't there. But anyway, he dominated the sport, and it was hard. After all, he's Cuban, so he's African-American, and it was a time when there was just so much hatred, that you hate to say that, but, I mean, that's the reality. There was a lot of racial hatred, and he dominated the sport.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing because he was really so amazing. And you're right. There was a little problem.
I mean, you and I being roughly the same age, we remember that things are better now than they were. Things are just better.
Yeah.
It's just better now.
Yeah. No, that's true.
And Joe Weider, much to his enormous credit, always showed African American bodybuilders in his magazines when it was really unpopular to do that.
No, he did. That's true.
Yes.
That's true. And probably a prime example of that is my dear friend Leroy Colbert.
Leroy Colbert, right, who was, in the late 50s was shown in
Exactly.
Right. Leroy Colbert, who's now, 81 or so, Leroy?
Leroy is 79.
79.
He'll be 80 next May. And when what was it about, a year and a half or so ago, when I attended Jack LaLanne's funeral, Joe Weider was there, and he was in a wheelchair. His wife was pushing him. And
he's in poor health now,
and
Joe Weider.
Yeah, he's had difficulties with his back, and so I approached him and I spoke with him a while, and I reminded him, and I said, "Do you realize that you and Leroy are the only 2 individuals left in that original New Jersey group out of that Weider facility?"
Sure.
So it's amazing, but he did, and they've been so close for years. It's just absolutely really amazing. So,
yeah.
But not only Leroy, but Harold Poole, for example, was another one.
I don't really know the name.
Harold came on the scene in the early '60s. In fact, he was in the Mr. America contest down in Santa Monica in 1961. I was there. I was, in fact, just entering college that year, and he was there, and he was only, I believe, about 17 years old. It was amazing, but no, Joe Weider has been very, very good to a wide variety of guys,
Right.
and unfortunately never really gets the credit for it.
That's true. That's true. But really, his good works, kind of live on. I mean, bodybuilding now has been huge for a long time, but when he really was promoting it, it it was not so huge. It was pretty small, really. It was a small bunch of guys who were
that's
interested,
true.
really.
That's true. No, he made it, and he really popularized it. There's no question about it. When we were back in the day, it was Bob Hoffman with Strength and Health magazine
out of York, Pennsylvania. I
out of
believe.
York, Pennsylvania, exactly.
Sure, it was a long time ago.
No, it was, and in fact, that's kind of how I got my start in photography, because John Balick and I John was competing. In fact, he was runner-up Mr. California twice. He was quite good. We were, I believe, at Vince Gironda's on the Boulevard in Studio City, and looking at a copy of Strength and Health. And Strength and Health would do a monthly feature called Man of the Month, and it was a full page. And you would enter, you put your entry in and so forth, and they'd have the winner every month. And John and I looked at it and says, we could win that. So I took him out of just right up the street from Vince's, and we took some shots, and by golly, entered one, and the first time, boom, he won. Yeah, so John was Man of the Month. Yeah,
that's real good. And this is a picture of Arnold when, in 68 or so?
That's Arnold. Actually, it's the spring of 1969, I believe. I've kind of lost track of that.
Are we catching that? Yeah, we're catching that.
It's
a nice shot.
It was down in
You
Santa
took this,
Monica.
by the way?
Yes, I did.
It's a very nice shot of Arnold, too, looking like a well-built teenage boy. I mean, really, in retrospect, doesn't it? I mean, it's a very nice shot of Arnold.
Yeah, his thickness was amazing, and when I hear stories that he may or may not have done something with his calves, if you look at that, that's before the time, and boy, he did have a calf. So whether anything happened after that, I don't know.
Right,
but,
that's right.
But he was absolutely amazing.
So what is he here? 18 here? Is he 18?
He was 21, I believe.
Oh, really? 21?
21, right. Yeah.
All right. Actually, let me put one more up of Arnold.
I was getting a little artsy craftsy there.
It's a very nice shot too. Is that the same day or is that some other time?
It's the same day. It's down in Santa Monica. It's in fact the other one of them was against the Santa Monica Pier when they didn't have the fence up there, and you could and you could do that. I always liked it because it was all blacked out in the background, and so whoever you had in front would just really stand out.
Yeah.
Exactly. The idea for this particular one I got from an old friend of mine, Russ Warner, who you may not know the name, but you remember getting back with Jack LaLanne. He and Jack grew up together, and if you remember his program, when the individual would come on and say, if you appreciate what this dedicated man is doing for your health and figure, then tell a friend about the Jack LaLanne Show. That was Russ Warner.
Oh, I see. He was
the lighting director and director of the show and so forth. And he took all the classic pictures in the late 40s and early 50s of Steve Reeves. All the really top shots of Steve Reeves. And he had a picture of Steve that was kind of coming out of the surf. And I love black and white, and I love contrast.
Yeah, black and
it's
white.
Something that really you get such a feel for and so forth. It really tells a story in itself. So I thought,
is black and white fashionable now, or it's still not fashionable? It hasn't been fashionable for a long time. I don't think.
I don't think so. But I mean, somebody like Ansel Adams, for example, is just not going to go out of favor. It really.
Black and white does gives it a nice artistic frame.
It is.
And who's this bodybuilder?
You're not lost in color, and it's that is. Mr. America 1967 coming up is Don Howarth.
Do we have that on camera too? Okay. Now I am really unfamiliar with him. So he didn't have as long a career, or?
Well, he started out training in Pasadena, came over to Vince's and trained there, and began winning contests in the middle 60s. Mr. Fiesta, Mr. Los Angeles, Mr. California. And then won the IFBB Mr. America in 1967. That was not long after he won the Mr. America. He had put on a few more pounds, but was just looking absolutely awesome. He's got the widest shoulders I think you'd ever seen. You can see the clavicles it's absolutely amazing.
Did he ever do movies or anything? Did he work in movies?
He did a few. Yeah, he did. He did a few, but he worked in the studios as I did.
Oh, really?
Good old Don Haggerty got us all jobs in the studio.
That was very nice.
Well, it was great for me because it got me through college. Actually, I took off between my junior and senior year, worked for the year, and then skated my last year, which was, got through was beautifully. So that was great. But
so now the listening audience to Here's to Your Health knows Steve Downs' background in sports and understands your interest and love of the subject. Were you able to influence any of these men recently with nutrition?
Well, Don, I stay in contact with Don. Don is 77 years old now, and he's still personal training. It's really amazing.
Don, not Dan, the
Don,
TV star.
Don Haworth, not Dan Haggerty.
Okay.
No, I did bump into Dan Haggerty a few years ago, but
what was his big? He had a TV series. He was Grizzly
Adams.
Grizzly Adams.
Right,
That was a big hit for a while, wasn't it?
It was extremely big.
It was a big hit.
Yeah. He was a. He's a real personality. There's no question about it.
Not bad. Not bad.
But at any rate, I do stay in touch with Don Haworth. He's, in fact, he takes a couple of our products, swears by them. The B6, B12, and folic acid, the 5,000 mic methyl B12. He notices a big difference, when he takes that than when he doesn't.
And your Superior Source products, they're manufactured in California.
They are in Los Angeles. Yeah, we're manufactured in Los Angeles. We've been in business since 1969. We manufacture everything that we produced. The plant is both GMP compliant, and we have a pharmaceutical license too. Mm-hmm. So we're really on top of what we do because the delivery system is really quite unique, as you know. It's an under the tongue delivery system. It's an instant release. Put it under your tongue, and the little microtabs dissolve right away. So the absorption is all done directly into the bloodstream, producing blood levels of the nutrients comparable to an injection without the usual binders and fillers and excipients of a tablet or capsule.
Right.
So the machinery that we use is the same machinery that produces nitroglycerin tablets. And, of course, there you've got a life or death situation. So
yes.
Those microtabs better dissolve instantly.
Now, because you've been a guest on Here's to Health before,
yes.
You prefer to use the term under the tongue delivery rather than sublingual, because sublingual puts it in the drug category?
Sublingual technically is a medical term, medical delivery and so forth. And we, in fact, it was our marketing consultant, advertising person, Carol Kriegel, who came up with the term microlingual. She was reading our literature when she was putting together some new pieces for us and saw that the tabs were small and referred to as microtabs. And since it was under the tongue, she just took micro and lingual and put it together. And the boss thought, hey, the thousands of dollars I paid her, this is the best thing she's got. This is great. This
right.
is really worth it. So,
sure.
Because it gets us around that. And you probably noticed that more people are getting away from saying sublingual anyway.
Yes.
On their
Only
levels.
after you mentioned it did I kind of become cognizant of it. And your B6, B12 folic acid formulation, is that one of the most important formulations that you have?
Well, it was certainly one of the first, because B12 is such a difficult nutrient to absorb through the intestinal tract. That's why doctors have had the corner of the market with injections, because the only way you really get blood levels is to either inject or by putting it into the tongue, you do get significantly higher levels.
And under the
really
tongue
amazing.
It's safer and cheaper than injecting yourself, isn't it?
Well, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's a lot less expensive. And I discovered it was amazing. I don't know if I'd mentioned this last time or not, but when I was interviewing for the job over 6 years ago, I didn't know it, but the product that they put out was one that I had used personally. And I told them when I was going through the interview process, the owner of the company, I said, this may surprise you, but I said, I've got blood tests on myself that will demonstrate the superiority of your product, and it does work. I was shown by a nutritionally oriented medical doctor that my red blood cells were abnormally large, and that usually indicates a B12 and/or a folic acid deficiency.
Oh, really?
It's not anything really critical. It just means that they have to work a little bit harder. So he suggested B12 supplementation, either injections or whatever, and I opted for whatever. I found their little micro tabs, started to use them, and I carry around with me the proof of in the pudding itself, or in the person here, that my levels went up dramatically, because it was translated into blood tests that showed that the mean corpuscular volume, MCV, went down dramatically. It was amazing. So they do work.
And on your B12, you have B12 sublinguals as well. What do you recommend? 5,000 mics? Is that a good number, or is it 1,000 mics? Is there any kind of definitive answer on that?
It really depends on the individual, probably. Injections are normally around 1,000 mics. My understanding was that the Journal of American Medical Association a few years ago published a piece stating that a 5,000 mic methylcobalamin was comparable to an injection. But as I said,
nice of them to say that.
Yeah. I only used myself to get where I needed to be. I used 1,000 micrograms, and I used cyanocobalamin. I didn't use the methyl form.
Maybe it wasn't available at that time.
Well, it wasn't, when I got it. That's true, and that's exactly why we have both the cyano and the methyl. We started with the cyanocobalamin, which is the probably the most prevalent form out there. The methyl form is the bio-ready form. It's the form that the central nervous system uses. If you take in cyanocobalamin, it's taken directly to the liver. The liver will add the CH3, the methyl radical, to it, forming the methylcobalamin, and then it goes to where it needs to go. So I kiddingly tell people, but it's probably true, that if one is not making that conversion, one has a more critical problem than a B12 deficiency.
Right.
They got some major liver problems. But so most people do it, and do it fairly well.
And when people use B12, methylcobalamin, or the earlier cyanocobalamin, what do you get? I mean, what do you feel when you take it?
Well, again, it depends probably on the individual. Most feel a dramatic lift, both in energy and in spirits. It's amazing. I think the last time I was here, I talked about my mother getting her on it, and in 24 hours, I gave her a 5,000 methylcobalamin along with B6 and folic acid, combined with 5,000 international units of vitamin D. And the next day, she said, I just can't believe the difference that I feel. I will not pass the
mental. We're talking mental clarity now.
Mental clarity.
Mental clarity. Yeah.
And an uplift in spirits, actually.
Good for mood.
Not that good for exactly a mood elevator. Well, it was Alfred Libby in the chemistry department at UCLA. Said that going into, say, retirement homes, old folks' homes, and getting their B12 levels up, you could clear probably 3/4 of the dementia.
Wow.
It's absolutely amazing.
Wow.
So this is...
nutrients, I mean, it's amazing what nutrients will do. And you were saying that, specifically in the case of your mom, in a day, your mom reported that her mood was better.
Exactly.
And,
yeah, this was very, very
That is impressive, isn't it?
It is.
And by the way, when people buy your B12, say 5,000 mics, say it's cyano or the methylcobalamin, how much money are we talking about? Is it like a $9 bottle or something? Or is it a $5 bottle? What is it?
No, if it's a 5,000, it's maybe in the area of maybe, say, $28 to $30.
Okay, and 1,000 mics?
It's 60, so it's a that's a 2-month supply.
Right.
And it's less expensive than one trip to the doctor.
Right, it's kind of a no-money item that really does really does you a lot.
Exactly. No, it really does. So,
wow.
But since when we got through the B12 and the B12 combinations, we started branching out into other areas, into B complexes, and
the B complex has all the Bs in a sublingual in a microlingual form.
Right. We have both two complexes, both we call balance B and a women's B. They're both relatively close in formulations, but they're the full spectrum of B1, B2, B6, B12, pantothenic acid, the works, and there, as you know, that the B vitamins are very strong tasting and have a strong odor.
Yeah.
The most amazing thing is that our women's bee, we have over 140 items in the line now. Our women's bee is our number 7 seller. Our balance bee is our number 11 seller. So people are getting by that taste and that it's amazing
they
because
like the effect.
They like the effect. They really do. They just feel that much better, and they really get the results. So,
wow. For those of you just tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health, we're speaking with Steve Downs, who's the National Educator for Superior Source products, microlingual products that are manufactured here in California and right here in Los Angeles. And what else can you recommend that's maybe new that people have not heard of?
Well, a new one that I know the boss loves is our 500 milligram tangy orange melts. It's a vitamin C.
Oh, really?
And the unique quality about it, I guess, is that it's totally sugar-free.
Oh, that's nice.
There's no sugar in it at all. It's sweetened with stevia. And I'm certain that they went through a lot of testing to come up with this because
I'll bet.
The amazing thing is that it is on the tangy side. But it's like a sweet tart. They're like sweet tart. And kids seem to love the sweet tarts.
Sweet tart's certainly big enough.
Right, exactly. So it's very much like that. But in sweetened with stevia, sometimes the stevia will have a bit of a backlash.
Some do, yeah.
This doesn't have that characteristic backlash. It's amazing. They've really done a nice job with it. So that's one that's brand new, and we're doing pretty well with. It seems to. I was just checking last week, in fact, on. I knew initial sales were good because the salespeople are really promoting it quite well. But I was looking at a month or two down the road to see what the repeat sales would be, and there's quite an increase. So it is. There's a fair amount of increase.
People like the product
in repeat, which is terrific. Exactly.
Yeah, people vote if it helps them, they buy it again.
Right.
And that's real good. And what about, is there some new stuff? Do you have resveratrol as well? You have all sorts of stuff now?
Yeah, the resveratrol, and I always thought that the jury was out on resveratrol. It's a potent antioxidant, life extension, and we talk about Dr. Sinclair at Harvard and his work with resveratrol.
Anti-aging, anti-cancer, pro-longevity, keeps your weight down, doesn't it? I mean, it does a lot of stuff.
Yeah. But initially he was saying that the amount that you needed was in a 5-ounce glass of red wine, and that was about the only way to take it because it really wasn't really very stable, outside of that. Mm-hmm. And yet there's been quite a change, and even Dr. Sinclair has changed on that. So evidently they've got a raw material that's much more stable now than what they had.
And yours resveratrol, what's the potency on your resveratrol?
It's 100 milligrams.
And they take, what, 1 chew a day?
Yeah, basically.
And it is sublingual as well. It's a macrolingual as well.
And it is microlingual as well, exactly.
I'll get that down one of these days,
and it's fairly good tasting, too. It's really pretty good tasting. So.
And what's the difference between your B complex and the women's B? Women's B has more pantothenic acid or something?
Women's B has more B12, actually.
Oh, B12.
They put 1,000 micrograms of B12 in the women's B, and then 15 milligrams of all the Bs, B1, B2, B, and B6, whereas the balanced B has 20 milligrams of all the Bs and a smaller amount of B12. And that particular product is a 2 a day. You take 2 a day of that, and so there are 60 in there, so it's a 30-day supply. One of the probably attractive features of those items, too, is that they only retail every day for $6.95.
Right,
so
nice
so that's,
cheapo item there, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing the effect you can get without spending too much money.
Exactly.
People are a little shocked.
That's an intriguing factor, I think, so they'll try it.
Yeah, that's right, because there's no real pressure. And when they try it and it actually works, they think, oh, my goodness, we had no idea. We just didn't know.
Right, right.
And then, of course, they're committed to it because they realize, oh, yeah, you're right. I see it from direct personal experience. These inexpensive, safe products, they work.
Right.
They work.
Right, exactly.
What else do you have that I don't know about?
What don't you know about?
Yeah. What have you got that's new for me besides the tarts there on the vitamin C?
Well, I don't know. You're probably familiar with gamma-aminobutyric acid.
And that's for mood?
For mood, kind of a tranquility factor. It's one that I've got more store managers, especially females, say when they get home at night, they'll pop 1 or 2 of those and just seems to just mellow them out. They just seem to relax and
GABA,
really feel good. So Yeah, it really moderates.
What's the potency on your GABA?
It's 100 milligrams. It's 100 milligrams.
That certainly works.
Yeah. It's just in under the tongue. It seems to be, it really is terrific. So we've done very, very well with that. That's been a,
I have a question, which is maybe a hard question to really answer. Are these nutrients, speaking broadly, are they weight dependent? In other words, if you weigh 170 and someone else weighs 220, does the guy who weighs 220, does he need more B vitamins than you do?
That's a good question.
It's hard to answer.
I'm really not certain. It really so much depends on the individual, and again, what they're absorbing and what they're,
because these are not drugs in any way. So
no, they're not.
Not handled the way the body handles drugs.
Exactly.
Just wondering. Okay, we're speaking with Steve Downs, National Sales Manager for Superior Source Products. They're located here in Los Angeles. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. We're going to take a very short break, and we'll be right back.
You are now tuned into LA Talk Live. We're more than just talk. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
Thank you for tuning in to LA Talk Live, reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. Stay tuned.
Broxy, maker of fine laptop apparel, laptop covers and sleeves, iPhone covers, and unique home decor. Broxy laptop sleeves are made to order and can be custom made to fit your computer. Just send a message with your order telling us the model and the dimensions of your laptop, and we'll make you your very own sleeve in whichever design you choose. Any of the pillow designs can be turned into laptop sleeves too. Remember, Broxy for all your computer embellishment needs. You can find Broxy at www.broxy.com. That's BROKESY.com. And remember to tell them that you heard it here on LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute. Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thanks for tuning into this final segment of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. I'm your host, Joshua Lane, and today we have the good fortune to have Steve Downs with us, the National Coordinator Educator for Superior Source sublingual, microlingual products that are manufactured here in California, in Los Angeles. And Steve has a long history in health and athletics. And here is another photograph. Steve here, right on the left. And who are the other men in the photograph?
Well, we talked about, my early mentor, Vince Gironda, who was known as the Iron Guru, who probably trained more Mr. Americas and Mr. Universes in this country than about anyone.
This is Vince Gironda right here.
That's Vince with the red tie.
Oh, I'm sorry. This
was taken on his 79th birthday. We had an 80th plan for him, but unfortunately he passed away right before his 80th birthday.
And what was the year of this? When was this taken?
That was 1996.
Oh,
that was 1996. I'm on the left.
Well, you must take a lot of vitamins because you look pretty youthful there. That's good. That's very good.
A few more gray hairs now. Bill Cunningham is the next fellow there. Bill came over from Northern Ireland and trained with us for years and won a many master's titles. Was a personal trainer, taught personal training. The one on the end is that's Gene Mosé on the end. Gene Mosé is the one who probably got me into photography. He's probably one of the best, if not John Grimmick, the first Mr. America. won it twice. In fact, that was not done after that because he would have kept winning probably. Called Gene Mosé the best physique photographer ever. Really.
Oh, I see.
So Gene is just absolutely tops.
What's his name again?
He got Gene Mosé.
Okay.
And he owned the Pasadena gym where Don Howarth trained, where Don Howarth started training actually.
I see.
And then he and Don came over and trained at Vince's. So, and then Vince. But as I say, that was his 79th birthday.
That's great.
So.
Well, Steve Downs from Superior Source, thank you for being a guest once again on Here's to Your Health. Thank you for listening to us today, and we'll be back next week, so stay tuned. That was good.
Thank you.
You were great.
For more information about the guests and sponsors of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, please call us at 818-707-0005.